love to bring up here the Chief Strategy Officer, actually the man Sanjay Mehrotra relies on at SanDisk, running the business. He is innovative. He is a dear friend, and publicly announced he's one of our investors. I would love to bring here Sumit Sadana from SanDisk. Sumit, big hand.
Good morning, Tarkan.
Good morning. I know you're going to share some slides. Maybe at the end we have a quick Q&A with you, very quick. Before you start, what is the SanDisk? Is that San for Sanjay? People are asking me.
Sanjay has certainly been a co-founder of the company for 27 years now. He's been with the company. The company started with SanDisk, actually, and Sun Microsystems, in that time came and said,
with the S-U-N.
Can't have Sun in there, and so they changed the name to SanDisk.
That's Sun, by the way. That's the reason. Oh, that was the reason. Everybody thinks it's because Sanjay, but then I was thinking, like, maybe it should be SumDisk. It's you, Sumit Sadana. Thank you for being here, and look forward to your slides, and I'll come up for a quick Q&A at the end. Thank you, Sumit.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Really happy to be here, Tarkan. Thank you for having me here. Very exciting times for our industry, and I thought I would just share a few thoughts on big data and what role SanDisk is playing in this business in the enterprise. And of course, I may be making some forward-looking statements, and please see our SEC filings for all of our risk factors. So SanDisk has been on the forefront of flash technology for 27 years now, and we have been associated with and leading all of the major innovations you have come to expect from the flash business for more than 2 decades. Together with our partner Toshiba, we have actually been responsible for over 40% of all of the flash output in the industry. We have a massive fab cluster in Japan where we manufacture the flash together. Over 40% of the bits of the industry come from there. And we have, certainly on the retail side, the #1 flash brand in the world. And very aggressively, we have been moving our portfolio to embedded products. In every single mobile and tablet company uses our products in their smartphones and tablets. We have every single laptop and PC company using our products as SSDs in their platforms. And we have been making a very, very big push in the enterprise. And that's the part that I really wanted to talk about. We have a great partnership with Nexenta we are very excited about, and I'll talk about that. And this is really the frontier which we believe is going to allow flash to continue to grow for years and years to come, because the value proposition of flash is so strong. And I firmly believe we are really entering the golden age of data. And what I mean by that, just to illustrate that with a few numbers, if you just look at the biggest astronomy labs in the world, together they are generating about 100 petabytes of data a year. That's the kind of storage capacity they have been needing. YouTube generates about 100 petabytes of data a year. And if you look at the top 20 genomics labs in the world, this is really the next frontier of medicine. This is also generating about 100 petabytes of data per year. And that's a massive amount of data that we are producing. And if you think about where these trends are leading us into 2025, just 10 years from now, we are looking at a 10x increase going to about 1 exabyte from 100 petabytes. That's 1,000 petabytes for these astronomy labs. If you look at YouTube and the amount of data that's being generated in YouTube, you're looking at a 20x increase over the next 10 years to 2 exabytes. But then if you pause and think about what's happening with genomics, it took the industry a couple of $2 billion and 15 years, 20 years of research to be able to sequence the first human genome. And then the cost came down to about $100,000 for each genome. Now it is less than $1,000 for each genome. And the age we are entering and the rate and pace of progress on that technology is such that that cost will keep falling, and we are going to enter the era of personalized medicine. And imagine in just 5 years from now, doctors are targeting an approach where a cancer patient goes to the doctor, and in 24 hours, the genome can be sequenced, and specifically targeted medicine can be delivered that works for their body. That's the promise that we think we can get to in just 5 years from now. But in 10 years, the amount of data that we will have produced in this genomics field is so astronomical. I mean, a single human genome creates raw data of 200 gigabytes. So if you look at the amount of data that is being produced there, actually the scale, which is in exabytes, needs to be redrawn. And you could see a 400x increase in the amount of data that's coming from there alone. 40 exabytes coming from the top 20 labs, focusing on genomics alone. So we are truly entering a fascinating time when it comes to big data. And big data brings big problems with it in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of management, in terms of how do you get access to this data fast? How do you do data analytics? How do you do all of the research that all of this data needs to be manipulated, accessed, stored? And these kind of headaches are becoming more and more prevalent. And this is not something that we are going to see 10 years from now. This is problems we are seeing today. In the genomics field, for example, we are seeing a doubling of data every 7 months. That's what we are seeing today. So these problems are here today. And what that means is, if you're in the field of big data, you need to go see a doctor. And of course, if you're not dealing with big data, I don't see any industry out there that's not going to get transformed by the impact of data. It's one of the most foundational aspects of our business today, and something that every company is going to have to figure out a way on how to leverage big data in their business. And real-time insight is coming to a lot of different businesses. You have companies that are trying to look at traffic patterns. You're inside the mall for commercial purposes, inside public locations where governments are now installing 4K video streams. A single minute of 4K video, 5.3 gigabytes of data. And you have cities that are trying to put thousands of 4K video cameras across all kinds of public locations in order to decipher threats, look at traffic patterns, create this grid of smart cities where tolls and parking charges for parking slots are all changing based on the congestion and based on various algorithms. So a whole smart city concept ends up becoming a big data problem, a math problem, an optimization problem. So lots and lots of data being created. And the one important thing for us to step back and think as we enter this age of big data is every new foundational technology has created and spawned a new infrastructure and use of new technologies. So when the car came along, this whole idea of building roads and freeways and a whole oil industry with all of its distribution, etc., came into being. I mean, the electricity was invented, bulbs, certainly power plants and everything came into being. So we really have to step back and think about what we should be doing differently, because the current way of doing things is just not going to scale. It's going to create too many problems, it's going to create too many challenges, and we really need to figure out how we transform the data center from what we do today to what we should be doing tomorrow. And here, many people have understood that flash technology is certainly hundreds of times faster than hard disk drives, very capable technology for scalability, but also a technology that people think, okay, it's more expensive than hard disk drives, so I'm going to use it sparingly. I'm going to use it only in my performance tier. And I'm here to challenge that notion and talk to you about flash as primary storage. And I have examples from some of our biggest customers who we are working with who are now looking to deploy flash as primary storage. And this is the big breakthrough that I want to talk about. It's not about flash versus hard drives in terms of dollars per gigabyte. It's about how you can think of doing things completely differently with flash. So flash being a little bit more expensive than hard drive bits on a bit basis, on a per gigabyte basis, is something similar to saying a car is more expensive than a cycle. Well, of course it is, but you can do something very different with it. And what you can do differently with flash is you don't have to have that same type of sprawl in your data center. We have worked with customers and deployed flash as primary storage for them that has cut down the number of servers they have been using in their data center by between 50% to 75% reduction in the number of servers. Huge reduction in the amount of storage and connectivity because you don't need to be short-stroking these hard drives anymore. And significant level of simplicity that you get with the architecture, huge level of resilience that you get. And I'm going to go through a couple of examples. Some of the benefits of flash have been fairly well known, up to 80% lower power. So think about all these big football field-sized data centers that companies are building. Huge power savings. Massive increases in performance, hundreds of times faster than hard disk drives. Extremely reliable, a whole order of magnitude better reliability. So if you're in a massive data center, you have people every day going out there, changing, swapping out hard drives that are failing. 5% failure rate. We have been shipping products that have had 0.1% or less failure rates. Very, very low failure rates compared to hard disk drives. Extremely reliable technology. Very highly scalable. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the more important thing I wanted to emphasize is challenging this notion that flash is expensive to deploy. And this is the part that I wanted to spend a few minutes on, which is the breakthrough economics that flash enables. When I spoke about dramatically lower number of servers that you can use in your data center when you deploy flash, think about not just the reduction on all the space, all the power consumption, but think about the significantly fewer software licenses you need, lower level of maintenance you need. I mean, it's a completely different dynamic when it comes to economics. Now, just comparing storage to storage and not taking into account all of the improvements coming from servers and so on, it's a radically different type of deployment. So if you think about a 50 terabyte deployment, we have worked with many customers with these sort of deployments. You can deploy it with almost 300 hard drives, 12 enclosures, massive amounts of power consumption, and 50,000 or so IOPS. And if you compare it with what just 24 SSDs can do versus these 400 or 300 hard drives, you can see a very, very big difference. 20x improvement in performance, 91% fewer devices, and everyone understands that, yes, the total cost of ownership, the TCO, would be lower. But what is more important is you don't have to wait for this kind of an investment to pay off. It pays off on day one. The total cost of acquisition, the TCA of this, is already today lower than what you can do with hard drives. Now, we have actually been working with several partners in the industry to bring the benefits of flash to the enterprise customers. We are working with hyperscale customers, with cloud customers, and also with large enterprises. And we have huge partnerships. We are part of the reference designs of a lot of ISVs, and we are very proud of our partnership with Nexenta as well. And I'll give you an example of what we are doing there. And we have a bunch of OEM partnerships, server companies, storage companies that we go out with, very strong distribution as well. But one important thing that we have seen over the past couple of years that I wanted to bring to your attention is some of the most cost-sensitive customers of ours, the hyperscale companies and cloud companies that deploy data centers at massive scale, are the most aggressive users of flash in the enterprise. So just pause and think what that says for a minute. The companies that are focused on taking out every dime of cost from their infrastructure that they possibly can are the same companies that are at the forefront of deploying flash at scale in more and more workloads. And what we see is that the large enterprises are severely lagging behind in that trend to embrace flash. Why? Because there is a massive machinery of people and companies in the way which are focused on sustaining their own business models that are based on hard drives. And it's preventing that message from coming through. So if any of you in the audience are running data centers in your companies, I want you to just pause and think about that why would be the most largest companies of scale in data centers, the most focused on cost, are the most voracious consumers of flash in the enterprise today. Now, we have been focused on trying to bring those same type of benefits that hyperscale companies have been focused on, bringing that same kind of architecture to the masses, to all companies out there. And we do this with our newest offering called InfiniFlash. We introduced this earlier this year. And we are running dozens of POCs, proof of concepts, with many large companies across the world to demonstrate the value of flash in scale-out workloads. And this is the device that can do 64 to 512 terabytes in a box, almost half a petabyte in a single box, if that's the kind of scale you need, up to 1 million IOPS and less than 1 millisecond latency. You can connect up to 8 servers to this box, and it is incredibly simple. It has SAS connections, it has no single point of failure, and this is really starting to gain a lot of traction. And this is where our partnership with Nexenta comes up. We have been very proud to be working with Nexenta. Certainly the Nexenta Store SDS offering has been integrated and proven out with this platform. And now we have been working with customers to bring the value of the capability that the two companies have put together to deploy flash at scale. And scale-out workloads and scale-up workloads can both benefit from this capability. We not only provide the flash, but we also provide a lot of software, a lot of optimization capabilities. We have the industry's leading caching platform that we just introduced with VMware, with their VAIO platform on the IO filtering that was just announced a couple of days ago. And with Nexenta Store, we are able to create a very, very scalable offering. And this scalable offering can use up to 4 InfiniFlash boxes, which means it can scale all the way from 64 terabytes to 2 petabytes in a single deployment. And it can offer unlimited file sizes, full data path protection and resiliency, inline data reduction, and all of that for a cost of $1.50 per gigabyte. And I'm talking about raw gigabytes before any kind of compression or deduplication or anything else. When you add all of those reduction capabilities on the data, you're looking at a few cents a gigabyte. That's the power of this platform. When you hear things like $1 a gigabyte from other companies, almost always it is based upon a lot of compression and deduplication. This is the kind of level we have been able to reach, the $1.50, without any of those techniques being deployed. So very, very powerful capability, and we are very excited about this. A lot of customer interest that we are together trying to address. So the key takeaways from me to wrap things up is certainly the age of big data is here, the golden age of data, as I like to call it. And it's incredibly exciting times for all kinds of businesses out there which are trying to leverage data in new ways and create new insights. And Flash is the way to make things happen. Without Flash, you can't really establish the kind of high-performance, resilient infrastructure that can take you there. And system cost is really not an issue. This is what SanDisk has been uniquely focused on in trying to get the benefits of Flash to all companies out there at price points that everyone can use and embrace. And certainly, we'll help you stop the spin cycle. So if you're thinking about deploying Flash at scale, please give us a call, and in our partnership with Nexenta, we'll show you what can be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Sumit, don't go yet. Just want to ask you one last question. This was actually on Tuesday. We had a CEO panel at VMworld. One of the speakers today, Chris Meller from the Register, the analyst/journalist, made a comment. And I'm going to ask you a question. I know you're not in the room. I don't want to put you on the spot. But when he heard about this announcement on Infinite Flash, which is delivered on Dell Supermicro platforms, obviously with Infinite Flash, Nexenta combination, first software-defined all-flash array with these metrics. And actually, you mentioned some on your slides. We're reaching 8 million IOPS in certain environments for certain applications. And the testing was done 50% read for 50% write applications. So without getting too much geeky, a lot of customers, a lot of partners, a lot of vendors do sometimes testing only on read heavy apps to make the numbers look good. Actually were stressing ourselves.
Workloads, yeah.
This is a big deal. So when we talked about this, $1.50 per gig, and you talked about all the differentiation, Chris Meller made a comment, and I'm sure he's going to talk about this later, right? And he said, disk is dead. If this is happening, this is dead. So question, is disk dead?
I think there is going to be a situation where data is growing so fast that disk drives will find a way to continue to address workloads where there is a lot of bits, they're not accessed very often, you're just sitting there in archives. I think there are lots of places like that where disk drives will be useful. So I would not say disk drives are dead. However, I do think that far too many companies are using disk drives in workloads where there is really a much, much better solution, a much more resilient solution, a higher performing solution, and frankly, a lower cost solution by using Flash than disk drives.
Great answer. Nice to put. Thank you, Sumit. Really appreciate your presentation. You've been awesome. Thank you. Give me a big hand.